What's going on, everybody? Make sure, if you like videos like this to subscribe to the channel. And we talk about health and spiritual stuff on this channel. So we're going to talk about today, we're going to demystify Jesus Christ, more so the metaphysical, the meaning behind Jesus Christ. And we're going to talk about what purity and spirituality, how they go hand in hand. This video could go on for probably decades, because there's so much stuff to talk about, and it can get very intricate. But we don't need it to be intricate. That's why I'm here. Though, if you'd like to really get on, and I'm sure you will in certain parts, you'll see what I mean coming up here very soon. So when we talk about purity, what it really means is, well, I'll start with Jesus Christ first. I'm looking at him, whether he was a real person or not. I do feel like he was a real person. I don't want to say he was taken overboard, but, it just, to me, it seems like a lot of stuff in the past, maybe like Babe Ruth, famous actors, musicians, celebrities, and even tall tales, they seem to be more pushed. Things that are no longer physically here, people and events, they seem to be more remembered. For instance, Jesus Christ, than what's actually going on, like right now. Not that we should forget that necessarily, and not that it's in the past and we should forget it, though those could be two obligatory things to say. That's not even the case. The fact is just like, I see a lot of stuff in the past get praised, then people get praised today, almost as if you have to die to be this appraisal, or more so praised. I can't really think of anyone other than Jesus Christ, other than like maybe Tupac and Biggie, those American artists who didn't live that long, but are still talked about and even cherished more today. I don't know, because I wasn't back then, but almost to a point where they're more cherished today than, or I could be wrong about that, than they were actually being alive and doing great things. Another thing, like Pablo and Picasso, painters, Beethoven, I'm not sure how it was when they were actually alive, but it seemed like we're not viewing new art. We're not seeing new, because there's new people like Jesus Christ. It may be a few. This is what I'm getting at. We always talk about this old stuff, like it's always old stuff. And I'm not even saying that it's old. I'm saying, how come we don't praise none of the living art? Every time we go to museums, for the most part, are always, the museums that I've been, always had older stuff. And I've always heard about older stuff. So I want to clear up all that ties. Where is it going? Right into Jesus Christ. Because I'm going to talk about more Jesus Christ in the teachings, and more so what he meant. So Jesus Christ, and when I talk about this, I'm talking about a perfect human being. And this is why it doesn't matter if he was alive or dead. Because we don't know. Some of us do. But the fact is that people are looking up to this image this great story of this man, whether he was real or not, again. In the whole story, this is purity, what part 2 that I'm getting into, and I'm breaking these things down for you. The whole story of Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know the whole story, but the one that I see people talk about, my Savior, and always talk about Jesus Christ and have this appraisal so high, is the fact that his purity, it's more so a characteristic, a personality, a Godhead trait of him. And him doing all these things and certain things. But again, Jesus Christ was just a person, if he was, that did everything in a sense for the Lord, if he was not the Lord himself. And he took matter into his own hands, and he spread this knowledge, and he gave love back to the people. And he did this out of chastity, purity, and again, love. So I don't want to get too caught up in that, but I want to say, so there's things, our life, when we come into existence, and all animals are born into enlightenment. All animals and all babies are already, to some degree, enlightened. Now, the being may not know that. The being could still be unconscious. But anyway, that being said, the baby is always, you were always once enlightened at some moment, because a baby has no thoughts. And if you look at a baby deep enough, you can see that the baby doesn't have no thoughts. And there's just an energy inside there. All animals are in complete awareness and don't have thoughts, because they are living instinctually and they don't have thoughts. They just go on intuition, which intuition is, again, God's free will, and that energy. So this is a very, there's parts of this video you may not understand, which are my fault, because this is, like I said, it can get very intricate. But I'm tying these things together with the Jesus Christ. When you're born, you are born into that awareness. The reason why you lose it is because society, you start to actually think. People put thoughts on you, basically, your environment, hence past karmas, and maybe just your own brain working against you. But why this happens is because we are born at a baseline energy, which is enlightenment. When this baseline energy, so how we're getting into drugs, sex, and anything to bring your energy down, we, over time in this life, this baseline energy as a baby growing up, so let's just say you're having a lot of sex, you're ejaculating your seed, you're eating, for some reason, a bunch of food that we happen to eat, bad food for your body. Maybe you overexhaust your body. Maybe you're still stuck in your mind as you grow up. Or maybe society has taught you this way you should live, and you're always thinking all the time. Society teaches you to think all the time. And actually, we're not meant to, because that's why we feel and have intuition, because our feelings and intuition never lie, because they're aligned with God. So, the whole point of this being is like, oh, we're on this baseline. And when the baseline, as we grow up, if we keep having sex and ejaculating, maybe eating bad foods, and just basically we're destroying the energy, basically, we fall away from this energy, this baseline enlightenment. So when you do all these things to the body, it takes you out of enlightenment. That's why I'm explaining this, because you're going to be like, why did he explain all this stuff first? So it made sense, because if I would have just told you, then you would have asked why. So people do things unknowingly, usually because they're unconscious. Maybe sometimes they have some conscious in them, but they don't know it. And and the energy loses, because stillness and focus takes some energy. It takes a certain baseline energy. So if you have short attention span for some reason, if you're always caught up in the mind, or if you're completely exhausted, and do you see what I'm saying? You can raise this energy, basically. There are certain ways, but naturally it's our natural essence and our natural being. So the whole point of any, if not most, spiritual practices, if you ever hear anybody talking about them, especially meditation, is to go back to that energy. And again, most people are losing this energy because they're caught up in the mind. And that's not our real essence. And being in there using the mind takes more energy than listening to intuition. So our intuition is a stillness, basically. And the whole painting behind God is just that he was so pure. You don't have to be this perfect being. That's also a message from Jesus Christ. And the fact that Jesus did all these perfect things. Pretty much like no sex and all these things that he did for the people out of love, all these miracles. And the reason he was in the state of meditation, he was there. And so he was practicing, he was doing things to get his energy at that baseline, or he just came into that baseline. Because when you don't drink alcohol and do drugs and spread your seed, because your seed, folks, has valuable energy in it, then it brings a spiritual energy to you in different ways that limbs out like a tree, basically. It can raise, but everyone for a baseline can get into enlightenment. I'm not gonna shit you because unless their energy is completely out of whack, then that's the whole balance, bringing it back into balance, bringing it back in the flow of things. So all of these things in our life, and if not the most important thing, naturally and naturally written in the stars, we are completely one-on-one compatible with nature. And what that means is we're already enlightened. We're just coming back to it, a homecoming. It's like we got away and then we're coming back. So why am I saying this? Because if we did nothing, so the more that you do, paradoxically, unfocused and unaware, more so, you this is gonna sound paradoxical, but everything that you do, you get caught up in, which could be a good thing, but for most people it's not, because they start thinking. So like us expending all these energies in all the other places, just doing, what I want to say is doing all this stuff, doing nothing basically is enlightenment. That's why people meditate, because it's harder for people a lot of people to get into meditation because they get distracted, basically. So the more that we do, and this isn't something depressing and be like, oh, I don't want to do anything. It's not that. It's easier sometimes to be doing nothing to get you in a state of enlightenment, so you realize it, so you're not caught up in your thoughts, basically, and make yourself suffer. So doing nothing is actually your natural state. Your purest, most form is doing nothing. Not saying you have to do nothing. But at this stage, it's our natural state. And that is awareness. And then from there, you can do stuff. But it's best to install this in you and have this before you move through life, so you have this, because else, for most people, it's going to cause a lot of suffering one way or another. But it can be trivial, because the way people suffer, it's the way they react to it, and different people have different degrees of suffering. And again, so the whole point of Jesus Christ is for him to give you and paint you this picture of purity, for the most part, and for something for you to follow as a guideline, so you don't have to suffer. Basically a teacher. And that's magnificent. So doing anything, there is stuff that raises the energy for sure, but our natural state and how we come, our existence is the natural state. Doing things such as getting angry, having a lot of sex, partaking in a bunch of drugs, and stuff that takes you out of that natural state, which is different from everyone, then you're just going back to that natural state. And there's ways to increase that energy so you can be more focused and have more attention. And there's ways to decrease that energy so you have less attention. And I'm not going to name all the ways, because there's so many ways to increase your energy and to lose your energy. But we are infinite in energy. We're in a limited capsule, so our body works in limited ways. But we can tap into that unlimited energy. And so, yeah, there's some discrepancies at the end there, that's for sure. But the base of it and the gist of it, if you understand that, then you're good to go. So have a nice day. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Peace. And we will dive deeper into this in different situations. Particularly certain things. Sex, food, which I've already talked about times, and we'll talk about over times again. All right, have a nice day.